In today's video, I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly how to get sponsorship for your podcast. Check it out. Let's talk all about how to get sponsorship for your podcast. But first, I'm Chris Bayless, founder of the Sponsorship Collective, where we help podcasters turn their podcast into a magnet for sponsorship. And that's exactly what today's video is about. What's the big deal? Sponsorship is just about putting together some gold, silver, bronze package and sending it off to every business you could possibly think of, asking them to sponsor a pre-roll, mid-roll, end roll, so that you can read a commercial that nobody wants to hear, right? You've just perfectly articulated how to not get sponsorship. This video is all about how to actually get sponsorship. So let's dive in. Instead of thinking of yourself as a place for companies to put commercials, I want you instead to think of yourself as a curator of audience. You already think of yourself this way when it comes to your podcast. Your goal is to build an audience and speak to them in ways that they want to be spoken to. When we add sponsorship to the mix, nothing changes. Sponsorship is nothing but audience and access to audience. Your most powerful asset is your audience, not number of downloads, but the quality of your audience. Sponsorship obviously comes with all kinds of benefits, but we tend to focus just on the benefits that we receive as the podcaster, as the property. What are the benefits of sponsorship? Of course, you get money. But is that the only benefit? Absolutely not. Sponsorship is about adding value to your audience. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. There's a reason that all podcast players have a fast forward button that is exactly 15 or 30 seconds in length. The exact length of time of your commercials. Now, I keep calling them commercials because that's exactly what they are. You bringing a message from your sponsor is not sponsorship. And the problem with this approach is that it doesn't add value to your audience. It irritates your audience. So instead, if you take the approach, how can I use sponsorship to bring value to my audience? You're going to start looking at sponsorship and how you engage with brands in a very different way. And that's what I want for you. The benefits of sponsorship to the brand, of course, are brand loyalty, but also connecting with an audience on a platform in a way that that audience is really excited about. So when you just put logos on stuff and e-blast people and interrupt your podcast with a commercial, you're not actually delivering value to the audience. And frankly, you're not really delivering value to the sponsor. Let me walk you through the process of how to get sponsorship. Now, I'm going to be talking about a bunch of templates and free resources throughout this video, all of which are available on sponsorshipcollective.com. Head over to my website. You'll see a section called free resources. Click it, and you'll find everything that I'm going to be referencing in this video today. Now, you've already heard me say it. Sponsorship is more than ads. In fact, advertising is a tiny part of sponsorship. We're talking 5, maybe 10% of total sponsorship dollars or rights fees go towards advertising, which is logos on stuff and commercials, which means that 90 to 95% of the $60+ billion a year sponsorship spend goes to anything but logos and advertisements. Sponsorship is more than ads. It's a lot more than ads. So if all you're doing is looking for advertisers to call sponsors on your podcast, you are going to hit your revenue ceiling fast. Therefore, step 1 in building out your sponsorship offer is to build an inventory, a list of all of the things that a sponsor would be interested in. Write down everywhere you're going to put a logo. Write down every time you're going to read a sponsor message. That is indeed part of sponsorship. It's just not the best part or the most valuable part of sponsorship. I want you to start thinking about how you can build experiences for your audience. contests for your audience, things that they can engage in, products that they're interested in that they can interact with and sample. You want to start to add the experiential to your podcast, and that will attract a greater range of sponsors. Let's be honest, a sponsor for pennies per view can put a logo or a video or a message in front of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people through online advertising, through remarketing, by buying lists, just using push marketing to get in front of their audience is the easiest thing to buy. What's not easy to buy is a loyal, committed audience who loves engaging with a brand. And that's what you're trying to build here when we talk sponsorship. I suppose it should go without saying that you really need to know your audience. A big mistake that I see podcasters make all the time is this idea that if I'm a hockey podcast or a cooking podcast, my audience must be people who like hockey, people who like cooking, people who like politics. The problem with this is that defining your audience by people who like what you do is such a narrow way to look at your audience. And then it also limits you only to sponsors who are selling hockey gear, cooking gear, who are selling to an audience that like the thing you're speaking about. I'm sure you've heard the saying that the riches are in the niches. The idea here being that as you niche down and understand your various avatars in your audience, you're going to make more money. So people who like hockey is actually not a niche. What we teach is for our clients to fully understand their what we call the macro audience. So the people who are listening to your podcast. We want to see 25 plus data points on that audience. And then from there, you're going to identify 3 unique avatars. Drill down in the survey data, if that's what you're using to flesh out your audience, and identify what these 3 people want more of, want less of, what brands they prefer. And what you will discover is that people are more than just one thing. Just because they like hockey doesn't mean there's nothing else in the world that they like. And what you're trying to do is understand the 3 to 5 buyer personas in your macro audience. Because once you do that, when you reach out to sponsors and build contests and experiences just for them, sponsors are more interested, the audience has a better experience, and because the riches are in the niches, you get to charge more money. When you just focus on number of listeners or downloads, you are not focusing on niche audiences. And then you just start to sound like every other podcast on the market, which you don't want. So once you know who your audience is and your various audience personas are, then you want to build activations. What exactly is an activation? It's the complete opposite of a logo placement or just reading a sponsor message during a commercial break. An activation is an amazing experience that you create and curate for your audience that you use to connect them to a brand they're interested in, and that you use to connect a brand to an audience that they're interested in. Really simple examples of activations include contests, an opportunity to meet a famous person that you've interviewed, an opportunity to maybe be a guest on your podcast. What you're looking for are amazing experiences that your audience wants more of, that your sponsor can make happen. When you can do that, your sponsor is willing to pay you a lot of money. Here's how I want you to think about activations going forward and how I want you to think about sponsorship going forward. What we have is your audience. We have what your audience wants more of, what they want less of. We have your audience needs and desires. And then we have your sponsor over here. If we think about what your audience wants more of, maybe they want free stuff. Maybe they want community. Maybe they want to learn from you. And maybe they want amazing experiences. Then we have to ask the question, well, what does our sponsor want? Our sponsor wants customers, obviously. They want to, maybe they want to recruit team members. Maybe they want to retain their current customers. Maybe they want to get some free samples. Or maybe they want to have one of a kind VIP experiences for their major clients, their white whale clients. Your job is to think about where these two things overlap. And where they overlap is what we call activation. In fact, that's what we call sponsorship. So how do we connect your audience's desire to get free stuff with your audience, with your sponsor's goal of providing samples? How do we connect your sponsor's goal of getting new customers with their audience's goal of having amazing experiences? Most people think here in the center is where you go, the property, the podcast. But remember, you are simply a curator of audience. Your goal is to connect audience to sponsor in ways that are meaningful for both. This is why ads and logo placement are a very small part of sponsorship, because they don't really contribute to either goal, unless the sponsor's goal is to let their target audience know that they have a logo, and your audience's goal is to look at logos, which is pretty unlikely. We're working with a client who ran a martial arts podcast, and they were striking out with sponsors because they were constantly reaching out to martial arts clubs, martial arts gear, and asking for sponsorship. Then they finally dug into their audience and discovered that this particular martial art attracted a lot of white collar professionals. And that led them down the path of connecting with human resource companies and recruiting agencies. Those recruiting agencies were able to arrange amazing experiences and contests where these individuals could go to a workshop, engage with someone who's famous within this martial art. They created these amazing experiences so that they could then connect with these white collar professionals, these C-suiters and future C-suiters. And so by knowing their audience, this podcast switched from trying to get martial arts gear to sponsor their podcast to a business to business opportunity with recruiters. At that point, they generated 6 figures in sponsorship just from a shift in their target prospect, their target sponsor, which was preceded by a shift in their knowledge of their audience. This is why it's so important to know your audience and understand that people are more than just one thing. The next thing you have to do in your sponsorship journey is to know your value. Now, we have a valuation process that we use in order to determine CPMs, cost per clicks, all that stuff. But if you're trying to do a back of the napkin valuation, then all you have to do is ask yourself the question, what would my sponsor pay to get this exact same outcome on the free market? Not what are they paying other podcasters for logo placement and the reading of their commercials, but what would that recruiting agency have to pay to get in front of 20,000 VPs and C-suiters who are looking to make a career change in the next 6 months? They would have to pay a lot of money for that. So the key to knowing your value is to know what a sponsor would pay for the same outcome on the free market. If you're just selling logo placement and reading of commercials, then I can tell you they won't pay a lot for that. That's some of the cheapest stuff you could possibly be selling. The better the engagement opportunity, the better the activation, the better the knowledge of audience, the more you can charge. So rather than having to go out and find 50 sponsors, you might only need 3. Let's talk sponsorship proposal. Most people put gold, silver, bronze in their package and send it out to every company they can possibly think of. Then they hear nothing back and wonder why. The answer is because you created a gold, silver, bronze package and sent it out to perfect strangers. So when you're building your sponsorship proposal, I want you to instead think of 2 types of documents. A proposal has pricing and comes after you've had a meeting with a potential sponsor, never before. A business case comes before the meeting. This looks an awful lot like a rate card that you might have seen in more traditional advertising. It should focus on your audience. At least 50% of your business case should be focused on audience. The rest should be focused on cool activation ideas and case studies. The only purpose of the business case is to secure a meeting for you to do proper discovery. If you are sending out gold, silver, bronze packages, please stop that immediately. If you're putting pricing in your packages before you've even met the person, please stop that immediately. The business case is designed for one reason and one reason only: to get you a meeting with a potential sponsor who's interested in your audience. And as I said, head on over to sponsorshipcollective.com, check out our free resources. We have a whole bunch of proposals and business cases that you can take a look at. Next step is outreach. Now, you're not actually meant to be able to read all the documents on this screen, but this is a collection of emails. Again, this is all available on sponsorshipcollective.com, where you can just copy and paste and send to sponsors. What people get wrong is that they will write a 2,000 word email to a potential sponsor asking them for money. This doesn't work because nobody reads 2,000 word emails from strangers asking them for money. So instead, we recommend a 2-sentence email. Hey, I see that you work with X company. We just surveyed our audience. They mentioned your product. Do you want to jump on a call and see how we can work together? That's it. So I've put together a number of emails you can literally just copy and paste over at our website, sponsorshipcollective.com. But the basic principle is all you should be doing is sending a short email to get a meeting. Do not sell by email. It doesn't work, but you already knew that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this video. Once you get a meeting with a sponsor, you go in and you hard pitch them on being your sponsor. If your goal is to get $0. Instead, I want you to focus on discovery. Discovery is about you thinking of yourself as an investigative journalist. You're going to go in, meet with the brand, and for 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to do nothing but ask them questions about their target market, their audience, their marketing spend, their ROI, their return on ad spend, how they measure positive outcomes, what they wish they could do more of, what they wish they could spend less money on. You're going to dig in deep to figure out their problems, their challenges. You're going to diagnose those problems and then offer a solution. The solution is for you to go and create a custom sponsorship package. If you would like a list of the 37 questions that you can ask in discovery, head on over to sponsorshipcollective.com. We provide those for free. Note, you shouldn't ask 37 questions in a discovery meeting. It's 37 questions that you can choose from to help you have a productive conversation. And then the most important thing in your discovery meeting is BAM-FAM. Let me explain. Most people have a meeting with a potential sponsor. The sponsor says, send me a proposal. The podcaster gets happy ears and thinks that means the sponsor is interested. So then they fire over a proposal and then get ghosted for months. We want to avoid this. That's why we use BAM-FAM, which stands for book a meeting from a meeting. Do not leave the discovery meeting or do not end the discovery call without your next meeting on the books confirmed. So when a sponsor says, that sounds great, just send me a proposal, you say, absolutely. Tell me exactly what to put in that proposal. Tell me all the things that you really want to see in a proposal that you know work. And just so I know, what budget range should I focus on? And then, why don't we get together on Tuesday at 3 o'clock? I'll put together a draft proposal and let's go over it together to make sure I've really hit everything that you're looking for. If they resist having a meeting to go over the draft proposal, they're probably not interested and you miss something in discovery. But what you want to do is go over the draft proposal with your potential sponsor so that you know it's going to be approved when you move forward to a final proposal. I know what you're thinking. Sponsorship sounds like a lot of work. That's because it is a lot of work. But when done well, the reward can be significant. When done badly, it is really just a waste of everyone's time. After you have provided a proposal that you've both agreed on and you've signed a contract, the next step is to deliver, to do everything you said you were going to do. In fact, I would recommend over delivering by at least 10%, because the most important part of sponsorship actually comes after you deliver. A little something we like to call a fulfillment report, where you prove to the sponsor that you did everything you said you were going to do. In fact, you're going to prove to your sponsor that you significantly over delivered. The reason for this is simple. If you can show the sponsor that you over delivered and that you performed better than many of their other marketing and advertising initiatives, you can now, in that meeting where you deliver the fulfillment report, ask the sponsor for another commitment. You can ask the sponsor what they want more of, what they want less of, and whether or not you can give them a draft proposal. If they agree and say, yes, I'd love to see a draft proposal and let's keep working together, you want to book a meeting from a meeting to go over the draft proposal they just agreed to see. And in that way, you can actually close your sponsor for your next series, your next podcast, your next episode within a week of their sponsorship wrapping up. Gone are the days of chasing sponsors and being ghosted by sponsors when you use this method. So if you like this video and you want me to keep making more, you know what to do. Hit the thumbs up button, click the bell icon, and subscribe to the channel. And I would also love it if you could drop down below in the comments your biggest takeaway. What's the one thing that stands out to you that you're going to implement right away when securing sponsorship for your podcast? And don't forget, head on over to sponsorshipcollective.com if you'd like the free resources and templates that I talked about today. And remember, the sponsorship proposal does not make the sale. You do. Good luck out there.